Introduction. Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, be it love, success, an ideal body, or even just inner peace, the more it seems to slip away? Do you sometimes feel like you're running in place, with frustration growing every second? In today's world, we're constantly programmed for such intense wanting. We want more, we want it faster, we want it better. This pervasive culture of achievement, relentless productivity, and the never-ending pursuit of the perfect life seems to dominate our minds and our screens. But what if I told you that this very drive, intended to make us happy, often becomes an invisible prison, one that's incredibly hard to escape? Today, we're going to dive into profound yet incredibly practical paradox of letting go, a remarkable truth discovered over a century ago by one of psychology's greatest minds, Carl Jung. Jung suggested that true fulfillment and authentic change in our lives come not from clenching our fists and fighting relentlessly, but from the exact opposite act, consciously surrendering and trusting the natural flow of life. This video is an invitation to a completely different way of being. It's a guide on how to reclaim peace, rediscover your inner power, and find true fulfillment. Not by adding more items to your want list, but by consciously letting them go. Because when you stop wanting, you truly start having. Let's begin our journey. The trap of contemporary wanting. We live in an era where wanting has become our second nature, almost an instinctive reaction to the world around us. From the moment we wake up, our smartphone bombards us with notifications about what we should do, who we should be, what we should possess. It's an endless list of expectations. We want the ideal partner found on a dating app. We want that raise and promotion because our LinkedIn connections already have them. We want a body like an Instagram model, a home like a Pinterest board. We even want to be happy, but even happiness has become just another item to check off our to-do list. Carl Jung called this phenomenon ego inflation. Our ego, the conscious, action-oriented part of our personality, has become insatiable in modern times. It's constantly stimulated by media, advertising, and a culture that glorifies external achievements. This desire for power, control, and possession is often a deep compensation for fear, a hidden dread of scarcity, of not being enough. It's like a hungry ego that stubbornly believes if it just acquires enough money, status, acceptance, it will finally feel secure, fulfilled, and complete. The paradox is that it's never satisfied. The more it gets, the more it wants. Jung precisely captured this with his words. Ego inflation is spiritual death in disguise as omnipotence. What does that mean? It means that the more our ego expands, the more it chases external goals, the more it desperately clings to desires, the further we drift from our soul's voice, that quiet, intuitive wisdom that truly knows what we need. It's a relentless, exhausting battle between what we consciously want and what unconsciously blocks us, frustrates us, and robs us of life's joy. This continuous effort, this persistent wanting, leads to inner tension, chronic frustration, and even burnout. Instead of opening doors to fulfillment, it traps us in an invisible prison. But what if there's another way? What if the key to freedom lies elsewhere entirely? How projection outsmarts us, wanting as a prison. When we intensely want something, we often unconsciously engage in a mechanism Carl Jung called projection. Projection is a process by which we transfer our unmet needs, our hidden desires, and all our hopes onto an external object, onto another person, a specific job, money, or social status. This mechanism seems simple at first glance, but its consequences are incredibly complex and often painful. First, a strong desire emerges. This would be a desire for love, success, recognition, or even inner peace. This desire acts like a magnet, drawing all our attention. Next, we project all our hope and sense of fulfillment onto that single, specific object. We start to believe that only that particular person, that specific job, that exact sum of money, or that certain status can make us happy and complete us. This is the moment when our desire stops being a healthy motivation and becomes an obsession. And here's the trap. The object becomes a prison. Instead of being merely a means to an end, it becomes the end itself, and we become its captives. We cling desperately to this desire, believing that its fulfillment is the only path to happiness. Let's look at everyday examples that perfectly illustrate this mechanism. In love, at first, a relationship can be full of joy and excitement. But when we start desperately wanting to possess our partner's love, we project our entire sense of security and worth onto them. Love, which was meant to be open and free, turns into obsession, jealousy, an attempt to control the other person. As a result, love slips away because we try to grasp it too tightly. What was meant to be a source of joy becomes a cause of suffering. In the pursuit of success, someone works tirelessly, sacrificing personal life, health, and relationships. They achieve another promotion, a higher position, earn more money. But despite their accomplishments, they don't feel happier. On the contrary, they feel increasingly empty, burnout, perpetually chasing the next unattainable goal. Success, instead of inspiration, leads to workaholism and a chronic feeling of never being good enough, despite all achievements. In spirituality, someone intensely searches for meaning in life, hope, and fulfillment through religion or spiritual practices. But instead of a deep inner connection, they find dogmatism, rigid rules, judgment of others, and frustration that they don't feel what they're supposed to. Spirituality, instead of being a path to freedom, becomes another list of rules and rituals that stifle authentic experience and deep transformation. When we try to have and control something by force, we kill the very essence of what we desire. It's like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. But what if opening your hand allows for its natural flow? What if letting go of control is the key to true possession? Non-wanting is a path to power. And here lies the true paradox, which is the heart of Jungian wisdom. Non-wanting is a path to power. This is a crucial shift in perspective. Letting go is not synonymous with passivity, giving up on dreams, or lacking ambition. It is a subtle, yet incredibly powerful act of trusting the wisdom of the unconscious. It's a conscious decision to stop fighting the current of life, to stop resisting, and to allow yourself to surrender to its natural flow. Carl Jung consistently emphasized that our unconscious mind is a repository of immense wisdom, intuition, and inexhaustible resources. When we consciously release control, when we stop wanting by force, When we free ourselves from clinging tightly to a specific outcome, we open up space for our unconscious to work in our favor. This often happens through a phenomenon Jung called synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences or a causal connecting principles that magically guide us towards our goals in ways we could never have consciously planned. This profound process of letting go consists of several fundamental steps. First, it's an act of surrender. We give up the fight, the clenching of the fist. We free ourselves from a need to control every detail and every outcome. This is not about giving up on pursuing a goal, but about giving up the compulsion, the obsession. Next, there's the release of energy. We allow the energy of life to flow through us, rather than try and hold on to it for ourselves. We become a channel, a vessel, through which this energy can flow freely and manifest in the world, instead of being an owner who tries to hoard it. And finally, the consequence of this is transformation. Results often appear in unexpected, organic, and often miraculous ways. What we so stubbornly sought begins to appear on its own once we stop chasing it. Think about a river. A river doesn't fight the stones that stand in its way. It doesn't try to force the water to flow faster. It simply flows, following its natural current, bypassing obstacles, finding the easiest path to reach the ocean. We, too, can flow through life in this way when we stop fighting its current. This is a true power that liberates the soul from the illusion of possession and grants us access to deep inner peace. Practical tools for letting go. So, how can we practice this non-wanting in our busy daily lives? How can we apply this Jungian wisdom in a practical way? Here are some concrete tools and exercises to help you open up to the flow and experience the paradox of letting go. The empty hand meditation. This is a simple but incredibly powerful exercise. Sit in silence. Find a comfortable position. Focus on one intense desire that has been bothering you or consuming your thoughts recently. Instead of pushing away, trying to get rid of it, or obsessively thinking about it, allow it to be there. Feel it within you. Notice the emotions it evokes. Then imagine your hands are open, palms facing upwards. You're not trying to hold on to it, nor are you trying to push it away. It's just there, and you are observing. Jung said, sit with your desire. Do not drive it away. Do not feed it. Let it starve. Notice how the energy of the desire changes, weakens, or even dissolves when you stop feeding it with your attention and tight gripping. The Paradox Journal. For 1 week, each evening, dedicate a few minutes to this exercise. Take your journal or simply a blank piece of paper. Write down one intense desire that has been consuming you recently. It could be something big, like finding a job, or small, like getting a coveted gadget. Then ask yourself a courageous question. What would happen if I stopped wanting this? What would my life look like if I just let go of it? Allow yourself to write honest answers, without judgment. Sometimes, the very act of asking this question opens up new space within us, releases energy, and allows us to see alternative paths. Dialogue with the unconscious. Before sleep, our unconscious mind is most active and accessible in states close to sleep. Before going to bed, when your mind is calmer and more open, ask your unconscious a simple question related to your desire. For example, what am I truly defending or protecting by wanting to achieve X? What deeper need lies behind this desire that consumes me so much? Just ask the question and release it. Trust that answers may come to you in dreams, in sudden insights during the day, or through those Jungian synchronicities, seemingly coincidental events that suddenly make perfect sense. The release the cloud of desire ritual, this symbolic exercise, can be incredibly liberating. Choose one intense desire that you feel is burdening you, irritating you, or keeping you awake at night. Write it down on a small piece of paper. Take a few deep breaths and consciously decide that in this moment, symbolically, you're letting go of control over the outcome. You can burn the paper safely, of course, or tear it into small pieces and throw it away, visualizing the desire leaving you and its energy being released. Then feel an inner yes to the flow of life, no matter what happens. This is an act of deep trust in your own unconscious and in the process of individuation, the journey of becoming your whole self, the power of the empty vessel, and the truth about possessing. Jung's theory, though sometimes perceived as complex and academic, is in essence incredibly practical and applies to each of us in our daily lives. This paradox of letting go brilliantly exposes a culture of achievement as a form of spiritual suicide. It shows that the constant pursuit of external goals, of accumulating, of controlling, instead of leading to happiness, often leads to emptiness and suffering. Instead, Jung proposes a revolutionary way of being. True power lies not in possessing and controlling, but in the ability to be a channel rather than an owner of life's energy. Remember the metaphor of the river? The powerful force of water can be destructive when we try to stop it with a dam against its nature, but it becomes life-giving, useful, and beautiful when we allow it to flow freely, respecting its natural course. It's the same with the energy of life within us. The more we try to possess something by force, the more desperately we cling to our desires, the more this energy harms us, creating an inner vortex of frustration, fear, and dissatisfaction. Jung introduced a fascinating concept of vacare deo, which literally means to be empty for God, or in a broader sense, to be empty for life. This is a state where we are not solely filled with our own desires, expectations, fears, and controlling thoughts. Instead, we become an open, empty vessel, ready to receive what is meant to come without prejudice or rigid demands. It is in this state of deep openness and acceptance that we become a true channel through which authentic creativity, profound love, genuine fulfillment, and spontaneous synchronicities can flow freely. This is the true paradox that Jung spoke of. God does not answer the prayers of beggars. He reveals himself to those who become an empty vessel. This doesn't mean that God doesn't listen. It means that when our ego falls silent, when we stop begging and dictating terms, when we become open and accepting, then our soul begins to speak, and the universe can respond in ways we could never have imagined. Therefore, instead of constantly asking what you want, start asking who you truly are. This is the path to deep inner acceptance, which is infinitely more powerful than any external validation or achievement. Conclusion: the paradox of letting go is an extraordinary invitation to a different way of living. It's not about giving up on goals or abandoning dreams. It's about letting go of the obsessive, controlling wanting that traps us in a cycle of frustration. It's an act of deep trust at life, that our own unconscious wants what's best for us and knows how to lead us there, if only we stop resisting and learn to flow with the current. Remember these words, which perfectly summarize this concept. Your no closes doors. Your yes opens a window, but only silence breaks the prison walls. Allow yourself that silence, that letting go. If this video has made you reflect, please get a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dives. Share in the comments, what's your biggest takeaway from watching this video? What desire do you feel it's time to let go of?